Hello there, sir. How are you?
Good. How you doing, buddy? How's your night going?
It's good. It's good.
Good.
Yeah. Just hanging out.
Did you eat a well-balanced meal
I did. Um, yeah, I had mashed potatoes for dinner,
with
bacon,
with
tons of bacon, cheese, onion, red bell pepper,
so you
salt,
had
pepper.
you made loaded mashed potatoes for dinner?
Yeah.
Man, I wish I was single again, randomly, just on random nights. Because when I was single, I had a horrible diet every night. I was making just whatever I had available, and now I have to make balanced meals, and it's sad. I had breakfast tacos tonight, so I
I feel like it was pretty balanced. I definitely got my starches in.
you have like 15 strips of bacon with your carbs.
Plenty of bacon.
Nice. Okay. So, have you been paying attention to the news recently, or do I need to get you caught up here?
Um, a little bit. You got to
Okay.
catch me up a little bit. I've been paying attention some. I've been trying not to watch Kyle Kalinske. I feel like he's like gone off the deep end.
He's been for a long time. You've been like, we need somebody like kind of in the middle, like Kyle Kalinske, and I've been trying to tell
No,
you,
I never said that. I never
I feel,
ever said that.
I feel like that's what you say
Never.
about him. So yeah,
Absolutely never.
he's too far left for me, but I do watch him occasionally. Anyhow, there has been a bombshell breaking news. I don't know if you're aware, Docs, but Donald Trump has kept his promise and released the JFK files. The truth has finally been set free. Have you seen this?
I just heard that it's basically the same ones that were released 2 years ago,
And so
2023. Okay.
it was the same set of documents that Biden released. Now, when Biden released them, there was a few more redactions than when Trump released them. So Trump they unredacted a bit more, and it turned
Okay.
out it was mainly like the stuff that was redacted was stuff about like our they call it the trade craft, but our spying. But basically, it was we were trying to infiltrate a couple different countries using the CIA and the State Department. France was one of them. Like we were trying to get in good with the guy that looked like he was going to be the next French president and basically make him a double agent for us. Like we were working on that.
Oh,
Also, we were working with Israel a whole lot. Uh, who knows? I can't even remember what. But the fun thing is that every time Israel's name comes up now, like that's what like the far right kind of has this infatuation with Israel right now, and they don't like Israel. It's you would almost say it's anti-Semitic, but we're gonna get to that in a minute. But before the Epstein files were released, Carolyn Levitt, the press secretary, was on Jesse Waters, and she was doing this whole thing where she was like, "Oh, well, I've been reviewing the files for a week, and the things that are in here, you know, they've been on my desk." And Jesse Waters very pointedly asked her, like, "Is there going to be any good information in here? Is this anything new?" And she was like, "Oh, yes." And then it came out, and it was a dud. She
yeah.
learned her lesson, and she was not going to be the person to come out and do this again. So she had her like deputy press secretary do it. I've got the clip ready for you. Let's watch this clip real quick.
The American people will have their hands on these documents and there will be a story to tell. I won't preview that story, but let me tell you, the American people are truly going to be shocked at what they see.
So, based off that, the American people are going to be shocked by what they see. Kind of laying it out like there's some big stuff coming. Again, nothing, nothing big coming. So here we are. Uh, JFK is a dud. Epstein is a dud. The MLK files are what they're supposedly releasing next. First of all, I think that the MLK files is going to be that basically he had a bunch of mistresses and all that. Like MLK wasn't as good a guy as you thought he was. He was cheating on his wife. That's what that's all going to be. That's somewhat reported out. Um, Anyhow, do you think there's any chance that
Okay.
if all three of those turn out to be a dud, Epstein, JFK, MLK, will MAGA turn on Trump at all, or will they just kind of move on to the next thing?
Have they not already started turning on for this stuff?
They were upset about Epstein for a couple days, and then that kind of went away. And then like I feel like the JFK files were meant to like distract everybody from how big a dud Epstein was. And now the JFK files came out and kind of still a dud, like not a big deal. So MLK is all they got left. I don't think as much as they've been claiming that they want to see this, I don't think they're going to get upset with Trump at all. I think that this is that we're just going to move on to the next thing. The Democrats are raping children is what's next.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
I don't think we're supposed to say that word. I think we're supposed to say grape.
yes, graping the children.
Raping.
I'll edit that out.
I think
So,
yeah.
and here,
Um, Go
do you
ahead.
have any thoughts on JFK before I jump into this?
No. No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just promises made, promises kept.
What's weird, now I've said this on our show and I've said it to everybody I know, but like with Epstein, everybody says, I want to see the Epstein client list. There is not a like list that they have of all the people that his, the clients. Like there isn't that list. There's testimony and depositions of who was at his house, who got massaged, but there's not a client list like people think there is.
Why
Just
would they
like
think there's a client list then?
I don't know, but they keep saying that. Like I want to see the client list, and like there's never been any mention of them having a
I mean, there's a
client list.
flight log. There's flight
There,
logs.
and like we've talked about, like a lot of people flew on his plane, like with the media. Like just because you flew on his plane doesn't mean you were a pedophile. Now,
Can you look that up though?
yeah, so there's a bunch of the flight logs online. The thing is, a lot of them are doctored and fake. Like there's been times where they've stuck, and I can't think of a good example, but there's times where they're like, look. I'm gonna pick a random guy, but like Timothy Chalamet, whatever that guy's name is. Like, look,
Yeah.
he's on there, and it's like, well, hold on. If he's on there, he would have had to be 7 years old at the time of this flight. So there's been
Yeah.
a couple of
That's
those.
how he got famous, bro.
Exactly. But with the JFK files, like I truly think that people thought there was going to be like one page where it was like, and that's when we, as the CIA, decided to kill Kennedy. Like no, there's not going to be that. Like, up, it turns out it was this guy, and they know it. If that is the truth, that's not written down anywhere. Like they wouldn't have it in a typed memo stored away at the FBI. So
Well, hold on.
okay,
Why wouldn't they have that typed out or written out? Or, I
you,
mean,
there's there's a famous scene in the remember the show The Wire on HBO. There's a famous
yeah.
scene when they were going over their plan to do something illegal, and one of the guys was taking notes, and he's like, "Hold on, wait, are you taking notes on a criminal conspiracy?" And then they wad up his notes, and that's kind of not to do that. So
Yeah. Okay. I mean, unless the CIA or FBI like we're all in cahoots together. Hey, we got to get rid of this guy because he's a national threat.
they wouldn't write down a criminal conspiracy. I feel very confident in that. I know that you think there's a chance they might have like taken notes on the meeting where they decided to kill Kennedy. I disagree. I don't think that they would have written it down. So
Hmm.
you don't send emails about a crime. That's just like
Well,
this
I
is.
think if it was like one or two or five or 10 people like in a little small group within the
You,
CIA or FBI or whatever,
you think
I don't think that they would have written it down. But if it was like the CIA overall was like, hey man, we really got to get rid of this guy. Like there's like the stuff's about to go down. Let's we got to off the president for the safety of the American people. Then I think it would have been well documented.
I don't. That's the thing is, I don't think there was any scenario where they would have like called a meeting and told everybody at the CIA what they were going to do. It would have been two or three, maybe four guys that made the decision and then outsourced it and never told anybody about it. And in that case, they wouldn't have written it down. There wouldn't be a contract to the killer at
Oh,
all.
so you think he was also outsourced?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Lee Harvey was a patsy for somebody. He even said when before he got shot, he said, "I'm just a patsy," and then they shot him. So
Here's
yeah,
here's a theory.
okay.
What if he was a patsy for the CIA? He was like a CIA like experiment, right?
Like
Like have you heard
MK Ultra.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you heard of that who's the serial killer guy that's in
Charles
jail?
Manson, he was supposedly part of
Manson.
MK. Yeah, he was supposedly part of MK Ultra.
Let's say he was kind of like that. He just went haywire. He was one of the projects that they had going that just kind of went haywire. Too much LSD.
I think it's more likely that he was just, I mean, he traveled to Moscow beforehand. He traveled to Mexico City and met with the Cuban like representatives in Mexico City. That was part of
Yeah.
what got released. Like the CIA was well aware of him and was following him, tracking him. They knew what he was doing. So either they dropped the ball and stopped tracking him and then he killed the president, or they were like, hey, this guy's already trying to do some shit. Let's help him out here. One way or another.
But
Um,
where does the mob come into play?
a
Because the
lot.
mob definitely had an influence over something.
You could make a case that the Soviets had something to do with it, that the mob had something to do with it, the CIA had something to do with it, and the new theory based off the fact that Israel's name pops up in these JFK files a bunch is that Israel did it, and apparently Kennedy had really pissed off the president of Israel because he was telling them to stop testing their nuclear weapons. They were trying to do, there was a period in like the 50s and early 60s where us and Russia were just blowing up nukes all over the world, like just testing them several times a year. And then we finally realized that was bad for the earth. So we were basically having everybody sign like a limit on how many nuclear tests you can do. And Israel was the one country that was just ignoring that and testing like crazy and doing it as a show of force to all the Arab countries around them. Like, hey, we got nukes and we know how to use them. And he
Uh,
was telling them to stop it, and they wouldn't. And there was beef there. That's part of what was new in the Epstein files is that Kennedy was really getting on to Israel, and the Israeli president did not like Kennedy. So that helps bolster the theory that Israel had something to do with it. Which right
oh,
now, so in right now, conspiracy minded people, I don't want to say conspiracy theorists, but and a lot of them are on the right, but there are some on the left, really think that Israel is 100% behind Epstein. He was getting compromise on people to for Israel and possibly the American government to use against them, kind of have power over the politicians. Then they also think Israel has something to do with JFK. There is a there is a weird like hatred of Israel, anti-Semitism going on the far right that's very interesting to me right now because like so Theo Von recently had Candace Owens on. Candace Owens like a year and a half ago like made a total flip to where like she is very against Israel. I don't know how she feels about the Jews, but she's very against Israel in general. She was part of the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro and another, I can't remember the other guy's name, the guy that runs it. They're both
yeah.
Jewish. And like she left because of like the shit she was saying about Israel, they were mad about, and then she ended up
All right.
leaving. Since then, she's kind of put the pedal to the metal on that. She had,
Who's paying those guys for sure?
oh yeah, well, so she was on Theo Von's podcast and like broke down to him all the evil stuff Israel's done, and at the end of that, Theo Von, she kind of radicalized Theo Von to a degree. Um, Rogan had that guy Daryl Cooper on that was on Tucker Carlson's show. He's basically a Holocaust
Yeah.
denier. He's the guy that's like, Winston Churchill's really the bad guy in World War II. Hitler wasn't that bad. Like Hitler
What
didn't
the?
want to have to kill the Jews. Like he's a weird, interesting guy. But like on the fringe of the right, there's a weird like pro. I don't want to say pro Hitler. Like I'm trying to not be the guy that's. I've said this before, but I don't like how both sides point at the other side and say, "Oh, they're a Nazi, they're fascist," and like I feel like we're throwing that
What was
around
that
too much.
saying? What was that saying? There was somebody on Rogan a while back that said like not every not every Trump supporter is a racist, but every racist is a Trump supporter.
I've heard that a bunch, yeah. But
Okay.
but that's so I don't like it doesn't make sense to me. Like there's kind of a whitewashing of Hitler going on where like there's kind of a Hitler like Hitler did some good things. There's that kind of a vibe going around on the right. And then you top that off with, Elon's awkward gesture, as is what they're calling it. And then
Yeah. Not only Elon, but like three other people did it
Steve
recently.
Bannon did it at CPAC. Like, there's this weird, like, kind of pro-Hitlerish thing going on, and it's like whenever somebody says, "Oh, the Trump administrations are Nazis," like, I don't like that. I'm like, "Nah, they're not Nazis. Let's be clear with what we're saying here." But then there's this kind of fringe right movement where it's like, they're making it hard for me to say don't call them Nazis. Um, that so
Did you
anyhow,
did you see that Germany and I think Serbia are having huge anti-authoritarian protests? Like, and it's
so
basic. I'm not sure exactly what's going on in their country. I was meant to look it up, but I think Trump has a little bit of something to do with that.
So they're two totally different situations. Serbia is they're one of they're one of the countries that Russia pretty much has an iron grip on, and their president just does what Putin says, and they're
Yeah.
tired of being like all those countries don't want to be a part of the old Soviet bloc. They want to join the West. They want to be part of the European Union.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so the people are rising up, and they don't want a pro-Putin president anymore, which is exactly what happened in Ukraine in 2008 and then again in 2014, and it's been a whole thing. What's happening in Germany is the AfD, the farthest right party. A lot of people call them basically the Nazi
That
party.
was the one that
That
Elon Musk was supporting.
yeah, Elon really wanted them to win, and they ended up getting like 20% of the vote. But because of what's going on in our country, like it's given liberals everywhere outside of America, the left is having like a resurgence because people are like, I don't want us to turn into America. Like Canada specifically, the left was going to get beat in their election coming up, and now it looks like they're going to keep power. Like, and it's only because of Trump. Like, people got to look at it. For whatever reason, it's not working in America, but everybody on the outside looking in is like, nope, we don't want to do that.
Blaming
Um,
on gerrymandering.
yeah. So There is real quick, and there is a Swedish institution. I think it's a college there, and what they do is they rank they categorize countries, and if they're a democracy or an autocracy or a dictatorship, and then they break it down into categories. Like, what kind of democracy are you? Um, they said that we're on the cusp for 2025, where we might not be in the category of democracies when they release the list next year. We would be what they call a electoral democracy, which is that is the last step down between an electoral autocracy. Sorry,
Oh,
sorry, I messed that up. Right now, we are an electoral democracy. The step that they're saying might happen is we would be now listed as an electoral autocracy, which means we still have elections, but then whoever wins basically is an autocrat. But we would still have elections every 4 years to see which new autocrat. Now, that almost
yeah.
never happens in history because once you get an autocrat, they suddenly don't want to give up power and they find a way to stay in power. But
Right.
that's where we're at. So there's a Nazi movement on the far, and I hate even saying that, but like there's a weird thing, and I think there's some curiosity. I've met some people that are like, that Daryl Cooper guy, he said that blah blah blah, and it's like, no, like I try to explain, but
That
there's a
Hitler was a really good guy.
and I think it's because of the mistrust in government, doctors, media. It's easy for people to now go, holy shit, was I lied to about World War II? Because in a lot of people's mind, they were lied to about all this other stuff. Hell, I might have been lied to about World War II. Maybe Winston Churchill was the bad guy and Hitler was not that bad. Like, people are open to that line of thought right now, which is really scary for me. Anyhow,
Yeah.
so that's all I got with the JFK files. The biggest thing, real quick, again, is the far right is latching on to every time Israel's name comes up in it. They're being like, "See, it was Israel," and I think also from what I read as much of as I could of it, and it seems like okay, like could have been Israel. It also could have been the CIA, and then I've always still thought Russia had a hand in it. So
So then, if the far right is going and super anti-Israel, then when Israel and the U.S. like team up to take over Gaza and turn it into a beach resort, like what is the far right going to do then?
So that's what's never made sense to me is that there's this element of like anti-Israel or anti-Jew basically on the far right, but then there's a real pro-Israel vibe. And the only way that makes sense is there's that part of Christianity that believes that the Jews have to fully control Israel in order for the rapture to happen and for the
Yeah.
world to end. And that's where I think it all ties together. Is they don't like the Jews, but they need them to control Israel so that Jesus can come back and they can go to heaven. Like that's part of this belief. That's the scariest thing in the world to me is that we have a lot of politicians that believe that.
A lot of
Anyhow,
people think that the end times are coming,
well, they've
like
thought
soon.
that the end is near has been a thing since like as far back as I can like far back as the history books go. There's been people saying, "Oh, the end is coming. You got to get right with
Okay.
Jesus." That's been a so it the end is always right around the corner. Um,
Yeah.
real quick, speaking of Nazis, Elon is still having like you can't call it a bad week anymore. He's on the verge of having a very bad month. Let's just say.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
have you seen what's happening with Tesla stock? And I don't follow stocks at all, so I'm just going to tell you what I've seen, but I don't know much about it.
I haven't like looked at the stock market, but I just keep hearing Tesla is tanking, Tesla is tanking, Tesla is
So
tanking.
Tesla lost. So since the election, it's lost half of its value. Okay, so it's been cut in half
Oh my
since the
gosh.
election. They
I mean,
lost.
it was so overvalued though. Here's the
Yeah,
thing, is like that stock, like all anybody that I ever listened to talk about his like Tesla stock is like it's overvalued. He doesn't sell nearly as many cars as like Chevy
mhm.
or no, Toyota, and he sells like a third the amount of cars that Toyota sells, but his stock is like three times higher than Toyota.
I've heard that last one, but overall, I'll take your word for it. Like I said, I don't pay attention to Tesla all that much. Now on Monday alone, their market share dropped $38.2 billion. So seems like a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen surveys like in Germany, they surveyed the people, and 94% of them said they would never buy a Tesla. Like that's how much they don't like Elon right now. In Europe and in Canada, Tesla got removed from the Vancouver Auto Show that's about to happen. And then it also in British Columbia, they have like an EV rebate, like just like here in America, if you buy an electronic vehicle, you get a tax credit. They had
Yeah.
that, and they took Tesla off that list, so they still have it for all
Oh,
the other EVs, but not Tesla. So overseas, it's a lot worse than it is here. Here in America, the problem is he's pissed off the left. If he'd have done this 5 years ago, like the only option was Tesla for the most part. Like there was Prius, but Tesla was the only like fully electric vehicle. So if he'd done
Yeah.
this 5 years ago, they could have said, "Well, I hate him, but I want to drive electric." There's a lot of options for electric vehicles now, man. Like every major company has one. I saw Mark Cuban. I think they just released today. Mark Cuban was on Your Mom's House with Tom Segura and his wife this morning, and they asked him what he drives, and he drives it's a Kia EV. And he went on to talk about how nice it was compared to a Tesla. And I was just like, oh, like it was a very underhanded way to kind of get a little action on Elon there.
Oh
But
no, like Mark Cuban does not like
oh
Elon.
no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
But like I said, he did it. He did it in a neat way where he never said Elon's name or directly shit on Tesla. He just talked about what a better car this Kia that he drives. Which that's what's crazy to me is Mark Cuban's driving a Kia EV. Either way, so Tesla's kind of shit in the bed. The fun part about this, and I don't know enough about this to even talk about it, but I'm gonna. His loans that he got to buy Twitter, now X, were backed by basically his Tesla stock. That was his collateral on the loans. If the
Yeah.
Tesla stock falls below a certain value, the banks have to call in the loan. Basically, means he needs to come up with cash right away, or they're going to repo Twitter or X from him.
Do you know what
Um,
that value is?
it's not so at the time there was no chance it was going to happen, but now when you look at it, it's like, oh shit, like it only needs to lose like another 9% or something. I don't know how realistic that is. It might not happen. It's just he's getting dangerously close to that.
Say
Now,
9%. I'm looking at his stock right now, and so I mean, over the past yeah. So it went up in November of 2024.
right when the election happened and everybody thought, ooh, Elon's gonna, have all the benefits from the government, it went up, and then apparently it's
Yeah.
crashed since.
Now it went back down to that same amount that it was before.
So what is the stuff I saw where it's lost half of its value since the election? What is that? How does that work out?
Yeah. So since the election, so before the election, he was around, let's just say October of 23, he was around $213 a share.
Okay.
He's now back down to $235 a share today.
You said that was October of 23? 23?
That was 24.
Okay, 24. So he's
October
back
20,
down.
October 23rd, 2024, he was at 213 and now he's back down to 235. But in let's see, December 17th, it went up to almost 500,000, so 479.
Gotcha. So basically it doubled right after the election and now it's corrected and gone back down to where it was.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's probably not going to lose Twitter. Overall though, he had a huge spike in his value and now it's gone back down. So he's back where he was before Trump got elected.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Elon to a degree. He was on Hannity the other night, and he did this whole thing where he's like Tesla has never done anything awful.
Did you
I've
say
never
Tesla?
Yeah, Tesla. Sorry, he said Tesla's never done anything awful. I've never done anything awful. I don't understand why this is happening to me. And it's like, dude, like I'm not saying. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that he deserves it. I'm just saying don't act like I don't know why this is happening to me. He's the biggest shit poster and troll there is on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's a dick to the left all day long, and then when this happens, he's like, I just don't understand. I haven't done anything wrong. And it's what are we doing here,
Not only
man?
that, but he built a brand based on he built a brand, Tesla, where basically the people who are going to buy it are the left, right? The only people that are going to buy it are the left. The right has no interest in electric vehicles, right?
Mhm.
So, so he built this brand, and his consumers are the left, and then he shits on the left. Basically, just destroys the left, ignores anything they say. He's pro right wing, who wants to buy a
Yeah.
Ford F-150 or a Dodge Ram.
His market was the left. That's who he should have been directly marketing to.
Yeah,
And now they don't like him and he's left with the right. And there's a bit of cognitive dissonance going on both sides because like the left was like, "Yay, we love Elon Musk," and then he goes pro Trump and now they fucking hate him. So you can make that argument off the left. But the right, Trump was just shitting on electric vehicles. His whole campaign, he was talking about how stupid like electric anything was. Solar power, wind powered electric cars. And then as soon as Elon came on board and started writing checks, he's like, "Oh, I love these electric vehicles." And it's like, well,
yeah,
so hypocrisy on both sides.
totally.
And for Elon, if you're trying to sell cars like Michael Jordan way back, this is in the 90s. Some of the Democrats and like the black athletes that were getting into politics and kind of making their voices heard, they went to Michael Jordan and said, "Hey man, like you have the loudest voice. You need to come out against the Republicans." And Michael Jordan famously said, "No way, Republicans buy sneakers too." And I always remember that. And I hate to say it, but that's how I would be. If I was trying to make money, I would try to straddle the fence on everything and not pick a side and not piss off either side because my goal is to sell as much of whatever I'm selling. So I totally get what Michael Jordan said there. Elon should have taken a note from him there because Elon just pissed off half of America, and it's the half that are more inclined to buy an electric vehicle. And it's not that he just voted Republican. He voted Republican, started shit talking the left, is sig heiling on stage like.
Yeah.
He talks about
But
real quick. He talks about destroying the left. We have to
oh yeah,
destroy the left, and then he's like, "I don't get why they're mad at me." What are we doing, man? Like, what do you mean?
he knows exactly why they're mad at him.
Yeah.
And here's what like go back to Mark Cuban. He was interviewed recently about this, and they were talking about Elon, and basically he said like money is addictive, like making money and getting more money and more money, but having that power can be even more addictive. And
Yeah.
being pretty much the president right now because he bought his way into the presidency. He doesn't really care about the money being lost because he has the ear and the power of the most powerful person in the world right now. And so he can basically write laws that affect anybody in the world. And now he's trying to get his toes into every little facet of government across the world. And yeah.
And that's the one thing that could save him here, and it would be corrupt as hell. But the one thing that could save him is if the U.S. government announces they're going to start buying Teslas for everything, for the army, for whatever. If he becomes a defense contractor basically, and now Tesla is making stuff exclusively for the army, for the government, like that's what could save him. The right's not going to start buying enough Teslas to save Tesla at this point. Like,
do you remember how Volkswagen got their kind of their start?
Oh yeah, they were so Volkswagen and BMW, like they made German shit, like the tanks. They made Nazi tanks and
Yeah.
armored vehicles. Yeah,
The Volkswagen was
I said BMW.
was
BMW
Swiss.
was British. Sorry, BMW was British, but Volkswagen and there's a couple other like German car companies that.
But VW was the main one. Like that was
Yep.
the Nazi car.
Well, anyhow, yeah, that might be the path for that. That's right now. There's absolutely nothing that Elon can do to like make up with the left. So that market's done. He can't correct here. So it's either he needs to somehow convince MAGA to start buying electric, and like just like the MAGA people I know that drive their 350 V8 trucks, like they're not turning around and buying an electric car, like period. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's his only play now is that the government has to award him a huge contract to buy cyber trucks or whatever it is.
Dude, he's already making $8 million a day from our government.
Yeah, well, he's gonna need it because it seems like he's not gonna sell that many more Teslas, especially around the world. And I don't know anything about it, but there's this Chinese self-driving electric car that is apparently fantastic and half the price of a Tesla. And everywhere in Europe they have it, and
Yeah.
Tesla's done in Europe pretty much. So
Yeah. And
The-
we
the-
can't. They made it illegal to sell it here because of Tesla.
the one good thing, remember what Elon said. The most important thing was the reason he was getting involved in this election. There was one thing that was under
Freedom
threat.
of speech.
Freedom of speech, correct. Okay. Good news. Elon's still there, so at least we're not going to have a freedom of speech issue, correct?
Mm.
All right, let's watch this clip from Fox News real quick.
Dude.
But when it comes to protesters, we got to make sure we treat all of them the same. Send them to jail. Free speech is great, but free speech is not what we need in these universities, and they don't need to be doing things that they're preaching from Hamas about anti-Semitism.
Holy shit.
So-
Tuberville wants to arrest protesters.
He said that on Fox News, and nobody challenged him on that. Period. So hold on. Protesting is the First Amendment. Okay, you protest our government. I still don't get why our government cares that we're protesting some other country's government. That shouldn't be a problem at all. But he just said jail them, and he said hateful free speech cannot be allowed. Now, I've heard Elon, I've heard Rogan, I've heard every MAGA person I can think of say that, hey, true free speech is hearing someone say something that you totally disagree with, that you think is, but you have to let it be said because that's free speech. Okay.
Yeah.
They have officially turned on that. If it's hateful free speech, which who defines what's hateful? Well, if MAGA's in charge, if Trump's in charge, then he gets to define what is hateful free speech. And
Yeah, and it goes back and forth, and like the right always does. It goes back and forth
yeah.
from what they want to say in the moment. If Trump could say something one day and it's perfectly fine, but if a Democrat says something hateful, the same exact thing, he might arrest them.
So we got a U.S. senator, Republican U.S. senator, going on Fox News saying that we need to jail these protesters. They can't. Free speech is one thing, but hateful free speech we can't have. That like
Not free
this
speech.
that is like we've had all this, oh, my First Amendment rights are being attacked. Like that's a red flag we should all wake up to. And the biggest thing I keep like the comeback that the right will say is, well, for the past 4 years, we've had our free speech attacked. We've been told by social media what we can and cannot say. And it's like it's a really different thing. A private company, a private social media company is not allowing you to say
That
certain
goes back
things.
to the
That's
wedding cake bakers.
that's 100% different than the government locking you up for speech. Like those things are not on the same playing field. So I don't want to hear anybody else try to compare that. But that's where we're at right now. Is don't worry. Now that Trump and Elon are here, free speech is fine. But you got Tuberville on Fox saying that again, and nobody. I wish to God the host would have pushed back on him. Nobody pushed back at all.
Yeah, that's really effed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're trying to take away free speech. I feel like no matter who's in the Supreme Court, I don't think they can overturn free speech.
So here's the thing: is they're not going to officially overturn the First Amendment like in court, but what they're going to do is they're going to do like that college kid from Columbia University, Mahmoud Khalil, whatever his name is, the one
He
that
was
was
on a green card, right?
Yeah, he's on a green card. It appears, and I still say it appears, all he's done was some speech. If he violated any laws or committed any crimes, the government should tell us right now. But so far, they haven't even tried to show us any evidence of that. So right there, you got somebody who is now in prison in Louisiana, about to be deported for speech. He was a green card holder, which means he should be afforded the same constitutional rights that all of us are.
Is he actually going to get deported?
It seems like there's nothing they can do to stop it at this point. The Secretary of State has full ability to revoke green cards, and Rubio said it's revoked. So anyhow, he's going to be gone. So you have that. Now you have Tuberville saying, that these people need to be in jail for hateful free speech. Like it's like I said, there's not going to be a time where the First Amendment officially gets overturned, but what it's going to be is an eroding of our First Amendment. We're in.
Okay.
It's just something.
So who actually likes Israel right now?
Our government.
Is that the only people that are on Israel's side? Is our government?
No, I mean there's I'd say that there's a lot. In fact, without looking at any numbers, I'll bet more than 50% of America is pro-Israel versus the smaller group that is pro-free Palestine.
No, but right now, who's pro-Israel, what they're doing to Gaza right now?
I think I think a lot of people would refuse to answer that question, and they would be like, "No, I support Israel." And I haven't really seen what you're talking about the bombing of children. I'd have to look at that because I haven't seen that. That would be their answer. They would kind of play dumb on that and say they don't know what we're talking about. If anybody's seen what's really happened over there, just as far as the amount of innocent people that are getting killed and the indiscriminate bombing campaigns that are happening, like you can't watch that and then go, "No, I'm good with that." But I think a lot of people are sticking their head in the sand and choosing not to be aware of that.
So you're saying 50% of Americans are just sticking their head in the sand being pro-Israel right now?
I bet way more than that. Yeah.
And it's mostly because of the religious sentiment that if Israel takes over all of Gaza and whatever else,
they have to totally occupy Israel somehow for the rapture to happen. I don't.
Do pigs fly when the rapture happens? Is that part of it?
I don't know. Let's look into that and let's talk about this whole rapture thing next time because I've never really looked into that whole thing. To continue real quick, Elon's bad month. DOGE had some court cases.
Okay, hold on. Before you move on to this, I still want to go with this Israel stuff because it's bothering. So 50% of Americans. What about the rest of the world? Because I'm pretty sure all of Europe is against what Israel's doing right now. The world police or whatever we call them, they're against what Israel's doing right now.
The world court and the
what about Australia? Like Russia might be for Putin. He's probably for what Israel's doing.
Well, so and that Putin. Russia's the two-faced one in all this because Russia has always kind of secretly courted Israel. Like if ever we pissed off Israel, Israel could go with Russia, and they've always kind of done that. But on the same note, they fund Iran and then indirectly fund Hezbollah and Hamas. So they're kind of stirring shit up, but also then trying to be like, "Hey, we're here for you, Israel." So they're playing both sides. They're pretty good at it. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, no, most of the world right now is not cool with what the Israeli military is doing. That doesn't mean they hate Jews. That doesn't mean they're anti-Israel.
Yeah.
The way the Israeli government is handling things right now is not proper. It's basically
Netanyahu is a bad person,
he doesn't seem
except
good.
for Americans, the American government. That's like the one thing. And the rest of the world doesn't like what Trump does. So then the 50% of Americans like what Trump is doing and like what Netanyahu is doing.
Right now, it's 44% of Americans like what Trump is doing.
Okay, so it's probably
So
44% of Americans that like what Netanyahu is doing too.
yeah, so but
Let's
they're the
go with
ones
that.
with the levers of power. I mean, that's the one thing that APAC got right is that you don't have to convince all of America. You just have to convince the ones with the voting power, the senators and the congressmen. So.
So like the world bad guys are like Putin, Netanyahu, and Trump is kind of like trying to get in there and like buddy up with them.
Like
Hey
I
guys.
I want to disagree with that statement. So like when you first started to say it, I was like no, but I'm like like I mean kind of. I mean you'd have to throw the president of China, Xi. You'd have to throw Kim Jong
Well,
Un.
actually, hold on. I've been thinking about this, and I don't think China is actually that bad. They're not. They haven't really done anything horrendous in a long time. They
So
kind of steal our patents and like they're a little slimy, but like, have you seen some of the stuff they're doing? Like their technology is like really ramping up.
So the one thing that they're doing that supposedly is terrible is the Uyghurs. The Uyghurs is I think a Muslim. I'm gonna mess this up. They're a certain sect of China that have been like basically in prison in slave camps. I don't know enough about that to talk about it. So the treatment of
Okay.
the Uyghurs gets brought up, but also the reason as America we would say that the Chinese government is bad is they are like authoritarian control. Like they have state run TV. People in
So do
China
we. So do we.
we're getting there. People in China can't get
They
on.
kicked out the AP out of the fucking White House.
I know,
We are
but
we have state-run media completely. The guy just said that free speech, like free speech is okay, but hate speech is not free speech.
well, that's we're
On
not there
TV
yet.
and the media, the most popular media station didn't argue with him about
Okay,
getting rid of free speech.
I know. I hear you, but we're not there yet. But
I think we're
th
there.
their citizens. What's weird is their citizens don't have the same freedoms that we have in a lot of ways, but also their citizens seem to not care. Like they don't want it. They're like, no, no, we want to do what's best for our country. Like they have a totally different mindset. They're all about the collective good and making China great. And if you tried to pull the same crap on Americans, like if you tried to put Chinese laws into effect here, we would be like, oh, bullshit, like freedom, America. But that's
Oh, we're
totally
we're
different
we're
mindset.
totally switching. I've been thinking about
Yeah.
this too. We're totally switching and going like, well, like we feel like we're individuals, right, as
Okay.
Americans, but the government doesn't. And this is where they take away, like they start taking away our social safety nets, like our Medicaid and our what else? Social Security, Medicaid. Like now, like what's better for society? Oh, let's get rid of these social programs, and then we can get rid of some of these weak people, and then the stronger people can survive.
That's what when you talk about I listen to a podcast about vaccines and epidemiology and like they always talk about herd immunity and like
Yeah.
it's funny because every time I listen to stuff about that I start to realize like oh like the medical community looks at us as a herd and that's why when you look at like oh you got to have 85% vaccinated and there's only a 1 in a million chance of a fatal like vaccine side effect so that one person dying really saves this amount. So it's all about the general herd. And like when I hear them talk about that, then I go, oh, that's the way our government probably looks at us too. And it starts to make me like not happy. But yes, I think that our government looks at we're a herd and we got to do what's best for the herd. And sometimes
Yeah.
some stragglers have to be cut loose because it's slowing down the herd. I think
And we
there's some
think
truth to
and
that.
we think the Chinese people are all about the herd thing, but they're individual people too. And I guarantee you that they don't
The thing is,
have that real herd like mentality over there.
I think they have it more. I think that Americans are the herd, but we choose not to believe it, and we choose to believe we're the most free country in the world. Whereas the Chinese people are like, no, we're the herd, and we're down with this. Like, we need to do what's the best.
No.
That's what I
Have you
think.
talked to a Chinese person? Have you ever heard them say
Never,
that?
never.
I've never heard
Yeah,
any of them say that. I think they
dude.
all are individuals just like we are.
And
And
here,
we as Americans get all this information. Oh, the Chinese are so bad. The Chinese are doing this, and the Chinese are so bad. But what if like, and I guarantee you they're over there spewing the same information about us. Oh, the Americans are so bad. Like we don't want to like
the biggest difference, let me say this, the biggest difference is I was going to say we should have somebody from China on our show, but we couldn't. They wouldn't be allowed to. We can sit here and talk smack about America and put it on YouTube and we're fine for now. I'm worried that we might not be in the future. Whereas in China, you couldn't do this. You couldn't say anything bad about your government anywhere, let alone put it online. You would be put in a camp to reset your values or something. So,
and this is what Trump is doing right now.
we're not
Like
there
he's
yet. We're pointed in
I,
that
th
direction, but we're not there yet. Okay,
I think we're very close.
I have hope that we're not going to get there, but we are kind of pointing in that direction, but we're not there yet. Okay.
Okay, more than 1 million Muslims have been arbitrarily detained in China's Xinjiang region. Okay,
That's the Uyghurs. Yeah.
a reduction camps. Okay, wow.
Yeah. So,
How do you
and
spell Uyghurs? Do you know how you
because
spell
we, because we need the Chinese economy because there's so many of them and they buy a lot of stuff. Like there's this thing where you just don't talk about the Uyghurs. Like we'll never call them out on that. Like Hollywood will never say anything bad about the Uyghurs. Like because we need like China. China's a big part of our economy.
I think it's the Uyghurs.
No, it's pronounced Uyghurs, but it's not spelled like you would think it is. But it's the Uyghurs. Okay, so done with China now. We got to continue on Elon real quick, and this I'll just finish up with him real quick. DOGE has had a couple court rulings go against them. They have to comply with the Open Records Act we talked about last time. Elon has to sit for an interview, and then today, I think it was yesterday actually. Court ruled that the basically how they dismantled USAID was not constitutional, which we were all saying that at the time. It was created by Congress. It can't be destroyed by the president. But anyhow, the problem is they've already done it. Like the speed was the point. Like do it before the courts can catch up. And now like the building is closed and like everybody's been fired. So I don't get how a judge orders them to bring it back now. Like I get it. Like the judge could say, hey, that was wrong, but like okay, you hire all those people back. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Let's start getting it back going. Like I think yeah, I don't think we let their speed just control. Like we just give up. Just like I'm mad at Chuck Schumer right now. I know we talked about this and weren't sure and you kind of put a little doubt in my mind, but after they did that, I am like completely
okay,
100% anti-Schumer.
we're gonna get to Schumer at the end. I promise you. I have that on the list for tonight.
Like that you have your talking points
I got it already. Yeah.
in an order here.
Well, let's finish on Doge real quick here. So real quick, this is just a funny thing. The New York Times has been kind of all over Doge. They were the ones that were doing all the math on the Doge wall of receipts on their website, and they were constantly pointing out like, hey, these numbers don't add up at all. Like you just said, it's this amount of money. We looked into it. It's a third of that or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So in response to that, Doge basically took away all the details, and they started posting like, hey, we found $3 billion of fraud in a USAID thing, but they didn't say what agency it was, what group it was. They just didn't post anything. So even at that point, the New York Times then would take the little info they had and like track it down, do their investigation, and then realize, oh, he's talking about this and he's lying about this again. So now Doge has course corrected, and they are now posting exactly like all the details. Like here's the amount of money, here's the department, here's the NGO it was going to, here's where the fraud was, and even that is still incorrect. And the New York Times is writing them about that. So it's kind of hysterical. The whole wall of receipts thing never adds up. And Elon keeps saying that, oh, we're more transparent than any government agency ever has been. What they're putting on the wall of receipts is I hate to say it's a lie, but it's just not factual. Like it's not at all. So
Well, that's considered a lie, Andy.
yeah, that would be true. So anyhow, but they got to put USAID. So that's the thing that's going to happen real quick is like the Department of Education is the next one that they're dismantling. They're going to get totally done dismantling it, and then like a month later, a judge is going to say, "Hey, you couldn't do that," and it's like, "Well, we already did it," and that's part of the plan. Like that is expressly written down in Project 2025. It's got to be lightning quick so the courts can't keep up. They won't be able to do anything to rectify it, and they're doing it. They're doing it quite well. They're executing the plan quite well.
So if USAID, like, let's okay, so it's unjustified what they did. Who can put it back together? Who starts putting it back together? Like, do we have anybody? We don't have anybody in a position that would start
I mean, I'm
putting.
guessing that if they said, okay, we're going to comply, Trump would name somebody to be the head of it, and then they would kind of not really put it back together. Like that's they would do a half-assed job of putting it. And
So it would basically the court would have to say like everybody gets their jobs back, which is basically what they said, right?
I guess I didn't read the full ruling, but all they said so far is that hey, that was unconstitutional, and I don't know how the court enforces them making it whole. I don't. So I guess we're gonna have to see that. But also on
Huh.
that note, getting rid of USAID, and then they also totally scrapped. It's called like Radio Free America, but it's basically it's more. Radio Free America and USAID combined was our American soft power. It's how we help spread democracy and all that across the world, but without bombing people. And we've
Hmm.
totally pulled back on that. And it's like, why would we stop trying to spread democracy? And then a cynical person could go, because we don't want to be a democracy. Like we're giving up on the democracy thing, and we're going to stop trying to tell other people to do it. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying a cynical person would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
anyhow, real quick, Trump went on Laura Ingraham. I think last night it was aired. It was after his call
Oh
with
yeah.
Putin. Um, First of all, the only reason I noticed this is because I started seeing MAGA accounts on Twitter that were really pissed at Laura Ingraham. Like they were like, how dare she challenge him? How dare she speak over him? And I was like, whoa, like this must have been contentious. Like they're mad at Laura Ingraham. And then I watched it, and it totally like there was 3 or 4 times where she tried to say, well, but sir, and like at one point
No.
he said we have a $60 billion trade deficit with Canada, and she just goes, I don't think that's right. And he was like, no, we do. And she was like, sir, and then he kept going. So she kind of gently pushed back. There were
Yeah.
people that were saying, I am done with Fox. I'm never turning Fox on again. How dare they speak like this to the president? And it was the most softball of softball interviews. The one thing, real quick, he talked about Canada a little bit in this. Let's play this clip real quick.
Tougher with Canada than you are with some
Only
of
because
our biggest adversaries.
only
Why?
because it's meant to be our 51st state. And
Okay, but
no,
we
no,
need-
but listen to this for a
we
second.
need their territory. They have territorial advantage. We're not going
One
to
of
let
the
them get
most-
close to China.
Look,
Right?
I deal with every country, indirectly or directly. One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada. The people that, now this was Trudeau, the people that good old Justin, I call him Governor Trudeau, his people were nasty. And they weren't telling the truth. They never told the truth. You know that.
Dude.
So, as she said there, you're tougher with Canada than you are with our enemies. And he said, well, I have to be because they're meant to be our 41st state, or 51st state. So
Yeah.
he's stuck on that. But then what's the one stereotype about Canada and Canadians that you always hear? What do we hear about
They're the
Canada?
nicest people in the world.
They're
Nobody hates Canadians.
they're annoyingly nice is what you tend to hear. And then Trump's like, oh, they're the nastiest people. Anybody he doesn't like is nasty. And I thought that was hysterical. And that was one of the 3 things that they couldn't believe that Laura Ingraham dared to challenge Trump. And it was like all she pointed out that, hey, you're meaner to Canada than you are to our enemies. What's going on there? To me,
Yeah.
that wasn't her really standing up and courage, and I don't know. I didn't see it that way. But
Well, she was just worried that like China's gonna come in and be friends with Canada.
it's definitely a possibility and a problem if it happens. But I think
Well, we're basically just relinquishing our power across the world at this point. And
Oh.
China's in there like scooping it up.
again,
Hey, we'll
the
take
big
that.
winner, everything USAID related and on all that's gone away, like Canada, China is the big winner and all that. Like they are thrilled with what's happening on the world stage, and they are like everybody's been saying, oh, China's about to surpass us. It's been talked about for the last 10, 15 years. And like now we've just officially given up the lead. Like China is going to be the dominant power around the globe. Get used to it. It's happening. You remember in school we learned about something called manifest destiny. Do you remember what that is?
Yeah.
So it's when we only had the 13 colonies or whatever, and it was like it's our destiny. God wants us to control this land from sea to shining sea, and like I
Yeah.
feel like there's a manifest destiny thing going on right now when it comes to
He
Canada.
said it. He said it.
Like he said, it's meant to be. Like they're meant to be our 51st state. So
No, what did he say? I think he used manifest destiny.
I haven't heard him say that. If he did, then I'm glad because that proves my point here. But like I feel like that's
Yeah,
the same vibe. Is like
yeah.
he hasn't. I haven't heard him say it, but it's almost like he's saying like God wants Canada to be part of America. Like
It's just
that's the vibe.
imperialistic.
Yeah.
It's just his imperialistic views. He wants Canada. He wants Greenland. He wants Panama, the Panama Canal. He wants parts of Mexico. And what else? He said there was one more.
Oh, Gaza. We're gonna
Oh,
develop
Gaza.
Gaza.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's right.
Riviera of the Mediterranean. And it's weird because yeah, I've been trying to analyze the way that he treats the league because everybody always points out that like he's meaner to our friends than he is to like Putin or Kim Jong Un or President Xi of China. Like
Yeah.
he's got. I heard somebody say this on a podcast, but apparently, and according to all the biographies of Trump, he never really had friends. Like Trump has always been the kind of guy where he has associates that he does transactions with, but he's never had like a bud, like a best buddy. I think that's key to development is to have a buddy.
Yeah.
Because of that, I think that kind of that explains the way we see him treat like foreign policy relationships, like relationships that like you got to be real delicate with how you handle a lot of these in certain countries that like we need them for this, we're trying to get them to do that, like there's a whole balance, and he just tries to strong arm them. Like that's his thing is what can you do for me? Here's what I'm doing for you. What are you going to start doing for me? Like
Yeah.
he that's the best explanation I've ever heard. And somebody said that's why he treats all these other leaders of state that way is because he never had a buddy. Like he never had friends growing up. He never had friends as an adult. That's
But
interesting to
why
think
does
about.
he treat Netanyahu and Putin with like love and respect and admiration?
The argument some would say is because he really wants the power that they have. He sees the way they're able to rule. They don't have to check with Congress. They don't have to check with the Senate. They can just do what they want. And he thinks
Or is
that's
it
awesome.
money? Is it money? There's power involved? Money?
So
What is like I
there's
think
also
Netanyahu has the money thing, right? Netanyahu has given him a lot of money, I'm guessing.
I don't know about so I don't know about Israel now. There was a whole like when Trump went bankrupt in like the 90s. Apparently, like he made a trip to Moscow. I don't know how accurate any of this is, but he made a trip to Moscow. He met some people, and then when he came back, he started getting all these loans from Russian banks. And I do know, like Don Jr. talked about it. Like I think it was in like 2014 or 15. There's a tape of him where he's saying he's like, "Oh, the majority of our money was coming from Russia. Like that's where most of our investors were, and it was Russian oligarchs." So
Yeah.
that's where the whole like, oh, Trump is beholden to Russia or to Putin is all that thing about apparently a lot of his money that he was using to do stuff was coming from Russia, Russian
There was
banks, Russian
something else.
oligarchs.
He took out a bunch of ads at that same time. Um, was that was the 90s?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the
I,
Central
I
Park
just
Five
I just
ads.
listened to something about this where he came back and he took out a whole bunch of ads like against something that was like against democracy or something.
Really?
Yeah, it
It
was
turns out democracy is no good, guys.
Trump takes out ads in 90s after Moscow visit. Let's do.
Yeah, you're on your own. I haven't heard this, so I'm gonna let you track that down.
Yeah, I just saw this. Okay. In 1987, Trump ran 130K of ads, of full page ads aggressively attacking NATO. That's what it was, against
Oh
NATO.
yeah. So he went to Russia, then he came back, and Russia has like that's Russia's dream is for NATO to go away, and also that seems to be something Trump's really big on is NATO going away. So that's a
Yeah.
coincidence. So yeah, I can see that. So and then on top of that, real quick, sorry. So Trump, speaking of how he treats Putin, Trump and Putin had their call on I think it was yesterday morning. Have you heard anything about how this went?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I'll say this could have gone way worse. Like we didn't surrender and we didn't like surrender on behalf of Ukraine. So that's good. That was my fear is that he was going to basically give up everything on the first call. Didn't do that. What's weird, and this normally doesn't happen, but it's happened with Trump and Putin a couple different times, is whenever two heads of state talk, that each government releases a readout of the call, and it's just kind of the highlights of the call. And normally those readouts match pretty perfectly. Like there's maybe some wording here or there that's different, but they kind of jive. I would almost think that the governments coordinate, like, hey, here's my readout. Does that match with yours? Okay, cool. Let's
Yeah.
put it. I would think, I don't know for sure, but I would feel like that happens. The readouts were very different in this.
Huh.
It seems like Russia's readout either gave a lot more info about what they talked about, or Russia's lying, one or the other. But one of the things was Russia said that one of their conditions for a ceasefire is that the U.S. and all of Europe has to stop giving Ukraine aid as far as weaponry or intelligence. Like that's the only way they're going to do it. Our readout didn't mention that at all. So that was a little weird. And so then Laura Ingraham also asked Trump. She said, "Hey, this is what their readout said. Did that come up?" And he said, "Nope, that didn't come up at all. Like that, I don't know why they said that happened. We never talked about that." And then this morning, a reporter in Russia asked Putin, and Putin said, "Yeah, we talked about that, and nothing was agreed to, but we definitely talked about it." So interesting that and there was a couple other like smaller points that the call didn't really match. But either way, a little odd. But what's funniest about this, and
did Trump forget? Is that what happened?
no, I don't. So there's people on the line taking notes for this readout. So it's not like Trump's the only person on the phone that he tells everybody what they talked about. Like there's several people listening. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
but Trump denied it, and Putin says yes, we did talk about that.
Yeah. So
did Trump just forget that they talked about it, or is he trying to hide something?
It's not in the readout, and Trump said point blank it didn't happen. That's not the only weird thing that they're denying happened here, though. Putin's former KGB. There's all these stories about like when he met with Angela Merkel for the first time in like 2008. Like he found out he probably did his homework on her, and they found out that she's terrified of dogs. Like she doesn't like dogs. So when he had her into the Kremlin, like she comes in and he's got 2 German shepherds like right beside him, and like they both sat the whole time, but it just put her at a disadvantage. Like now she's a little on guard about the dogs, and he has the upper hand in the conversation. There's all these stories of Putin doing little shit like that just to right off the bat, and that's a KGB thing. That's somebody who's well trained in this stuff. Anyhow.
Totally.
It seems like Putin tried to do like an alpha thing right off the bat. The call was scheduled for a certain time. There's different reports. It seems like he was either an hour late or 90 minutes late to the call. Okay. That started getting reported right after it was while like supposedly the call was supposed to be happening. And I was watching CNN and they were like, well, the call should have started already, but we're getting indications that it hasn't. So I didn't know what was going on. I didn't think much of it. Then it comes out afterward that like, oh, Putin left Trump hanging for 90 or 6. I'm going to say 60 minutes. I've heard both, but let's just say 60. Putin left Trump hanging for 60 minutes, waiting by the phone, and then finally called him. And the White House came out afterward and said, no, the call was on time. Then a video comes out of Putin. Okay. Turns out Putin was on stage. The White House had said, hey, the call's happening. I'm going to make up this number, but they said, hey, the call's happening at 11 a.m., let's just say. And then at 11 a.m. our time, Putin was on stage doing like a deal in front of a crowd. And I'm going to have you watch this tape. You have to read the subtitles because it's in Russian, but real quick, check this out.
Заявлением Дмитрия Сергеевича Пескова ваш разговор должен до 18 часов состояться с Дональдом Трампом. Не знаю, насколько он... Работа такая. Ну, не знаю, сейчас надо посмотреть, что на эту фразу скажет Трамп. Может быть, он любит интервью давать, может, уже Трампа не упоминал. Не-не-не, он знает, что у нас дискуссии.
Wow.
So we've got Putin on stage, and they say, hey, somebody was like signaling the interviewer, like, hey, he's got to go. He's got to call a Trump. And Putin's response was, ignore him. Just ignore him. And
ignore him.
So that happens. And it's like, oh, shit. Like, so it is true. The White House just said that didn't happen. And now we have a video of Trump on stage when the call was supposed to be happening. And they're saying, hey, he's got to go. And he's like, ignore him. Trump can wait, basically. It's fine.
When did that video come out?
It came out a couple of hours after the phone call took place. So the phone call took place. I'm going to set a timeline.
So did Caroline Leavitt already have to answer questions about this?
So it wasn't her. It was somebody else, and it wasn't on tape, but somebody from the White House came out with a statement denying that Putin made Trump wait. Like that almost immediately after they came out and said, no, that didn't happen. Then the Putin video comes out like 2 hours later, okay? Then our head of national security, Waltz, I can't remember, Mike Waltz, something like that. He has to go on Fox an hour after the Putin video comes out. Check this one out real quick.
There's some reports out there that said that he kept the president waiting. I don't think that's true based on my sources. What can you tell us?
Completely false, garbage, fake news. This is between 2 heads of state, a major call. There's, sometimes some technical difficulties. The call started on time, and it lasted for a very long time. But I can tell you, Donald J. Trump does not sit and wait for an hour for any head of state.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts? Because it seems like the government's just lying to us, but
We talked about state-run media, and that's exactly, we just played two clips of state-run media. Fox News is state-run media.
Mm-hmm. So, in Fox News, I guarantee you had seen the video of Putin on stage saying, "Ah, we're fine, ignore him." I'll call him
for sure.
He basically
For
said,
sure.
"I'll call him when I'm ready. I'll call him when I'm done. I'm not done here. I'll call him later. He's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about him." That's basically the vibe from Putin. And
Yeah.
then that's what bothers me is the Fox host right there specifically. Laura Ingraham ended up interviewing Trump later that night. She didn't say shit about it. So it's
yeah.
one of those where it's don't
And everybody
believe
was laughing too when they was like, he can wait.
Yeah, the Russia was laughing at it. So
Laughing at Trump. Holy moly.
You can choose to believe the White House and Mike Waltz, the guy we just saw on Fox. Choose to believe them if you want. I'm just going to say I think there's a strong chance that the White House is feeding us a load of bull. That's all I'm saying.
I think you're right, bro.
So anyhow, only one more serious topic. Then we got to talk about this. The White House is strategically being smart about the battles they're picking here. Okay, the Alien and Enemies Act of 1798. Have you heard? I think we talked about this months ago, but I told you Trump was going to try. He was going to try to do that. He's officially doing that. He declared it on a Saturday. They declared it, and it so quickly went to the courts. Like they were in front of a judge within hours of declaring it. Okay, and he's using this. Normally, if you're going to deport people from the country, they have to go in front of a judge. The judge has to rule that, yep, they're here illegally and they need to go back to their country. One of the biggest problems with our immigration system is we have a real shortage of judges that approve asylum claims and that choose who gets deported. And we could fix our immigration by just flooding more judges into there to have these cases heard quickly. The Republicans do not want to do that. They're very against that for whatever reason. So once he declares the Alien Enemies Act, that gives him authority to just deport whoever he wants without going through the courts. Okay. The only way you can declare that is you have to say that we are at war. That's what this power is for. And it's for war or invasion is what it says. So he's saying, we're being invaded. He said, we're being invaded specifically by, I can't say the name right, Tren de Aragua.
Yeah.
I can't say the name. We're being invaded by Venezuelan gang members, so we are at war with them. So I get to boot them out without having to go in front of judges. That's the whole point of this, okay?
Yeah, I saw that they arrested people that had like tattoos that didn't even weren't even the ICE thought were Tren de Aragua tattoos, but the people were like not Tren de.
There's 5 people specifically. There were 5 people that this all started with that did a joint lawsuit, and they're saying, hey, we're not Tren de Aragua. Like, we're from Venezuela, and we're awaiting all of them came in, got on paper, and we're awaiting their court hearing for their asylum claim. So they were here legally. They were 5 of the ones that got flown off. Now, the judge said he did a quick hearing and said, hey, this is most likely unconstitutional. So he's granting a temporary injunction, which means we're going to pause everything while we figure out the ruling here. So he said, if the planes haven't left yet, don't let them leave. And if the planes are already in the air, turn them around and get them back here. Like, this ain't happening.
Oh, yeah.
2 of the planes were already in the air at that point. 1 was still on the ground. All 3 took off. The 3rd one took off. They all 3 landed in El Salvador. The El Salvadorian president, who's an ally of Trump, tweeted did a quote tweet of the judge saying turn them around, and it said oopsie, like too late or something along those lines. And then Elon and other people retweeted that. So the judge is pissed now because the judge said don't let the planes take off. If they've already taken off, bring them back. And the White House just didn't do it. Everybody's been talking about is Trump going to defy a judge's orders, and this is the first time where they kind of did. It looks like, and there's a gray area here. So the judge called them back in the next day and said, "Hey, what's going on? Why did these planes take off? You got my order." And their response was, "Well, you gave an oral order, but you didn't give the written order for 45 minutes after you gave the oral order. So we were waiting for the written order, and in that time, the 3rd plane took off, which." That doesn't carry weight at all. An oral order is the same as a written order, according to every judge that I've seen talk about this since. So he gave them till today to basically give him exact info. When did these planes take off? When did you try to call out to them to tell them to come back? Like all this stuff. And they said, we can't tell you because it's national security and you can't know this. Turns out this judge is a FISA judge. So he has the highest level of clearances. So he said, hey, if you want to do this off the record, we can do this off the record. We can do it under seal. You need to give me this. And they basically said they weren't prepared to give it to him. So now he gave them another extension. And by noon tomorrow, they have to give him all these details. This is going to end up at the Supreme Court. Trump tweeted, Elon and a bunch of people tweeted that this judge is a radical Democrat, blah, 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 and he's trying to usurp the powers of the presidency. Trump ended up tweeting about it late one night, I think 2 nights ago, and then John Roberts, the head of the Supreme Court, came out and made a statement the next morning, like a written statement, and just said, hey, we don't talk about impeaching judges. If you don't like the ruling, there's an appeal, there's an appellate process, and this is how it needs to go. And he never said Trump's name, but he kind of shot back at Trump and told Trump to knock this shit off about impeaching judges. It turns out that of the 5 people that did this lawsuit, it appears all 5 of them are not in a gang, and probably and all 5 are definitely on paper, which means they're here. The government knows they're here. They're awaiting their trial. So those 5 need to get brought back. Now, what makes this bad? This apparently, by all accounts, is basically a torture prison. Like, this prison is known for being the worst of the worst. Now, here's where Trump is smart, okay? The right-wing media is saying, can you believe this judge? These are planefuls of Tren de Aragua, violent gang members. And this judge is trying to tell me that I can't kick violent gang members out. And if you only watch right-wing media, you're not going to know that, hey, there were some people on those planes that shouldn't have been on those planes. But they're not going to know that. But they're almost daring the Democrats to come out and defend Tren de Aragua or Venezuelan gangs. They're trying to get them to defend that, which it's kind of, they're baiting the Democrats. Are you gonna stand up for these evil gang members? Like and the nuance in it is that, hey, how do we know that all these people were in the gang? But you can't, it's almost like you don't have time to explain that. You either got to pick a side and go, and the Democrats haven't been great at communicating recently. So I feel like you could explain this, but they're not going to do it right. So this is interesting.
Oh my gosh.
So that's going to get, I think that's going to be the first one to get to the Supreme Court.
So 5 people are sitting in a very bad prison.
At least 5 that we know of that shouldn't have been on that plane, or any of those planes that are down there. And like, as soon as you get, there's videos of it. As soon as you get there, they shave your head. They treat you like dogs. And then once you get in there, it is a lot of people get killed in those prisons. So it's by all accounts, this is like, the shit that goes on in that prison could never happen in an American prison. That's why he sent them down there. And I'll tell you this, if it really was, if we believed our government and we knew for sure that all 3 of those planes were full with violent criminals, then screw them, put them in that prison. I don't care. But like, you have to trust that they didn't make any mistakes here and grab the wrong person. And it seems like they very well might have grabbed at least 5 of the wrong people here. So it's like, one of them was a gay Venezuelan, which apparently being gay in Venezuela is like a death sentence, and that's why he fled to America. And he's going to get killed in that prison within a day or 2. So it's basically a death sentence for that guy. And
I heard that they're doing this. They're just kind of rounding people up willy-nilly because they're not even matching the numbers that Biden was deporting people under.
They weren't. They were basically right about the same level per day that Biden was deporting, and he wanted shock and awe. He wanted. So anyhow, the borders are, Tom Homan said flat out that they don't care what the judges say. The flights are going to continue. Now, he said that no more flights have left yet, but that's the rhetoric coming out is we're not going to listen to these judges. We're getting people out of here. I'm doing what President Trump says. We'll see. That might all just be talk. I think.
So then what happens if, like, let's just say it does go to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules against Trump and they continue to do it? Like, where does it actually come to where there's like people that knock on the door and go, Mr. Trump, you're going to jail?
That's the scary part. Like, the scary part right now is that there's definitely like an intimidation play going on towards the judges here. Like all this talk about impeaching them, and I feel like they're trying to intimidate judges to not rule against Trump. So far, some of them have had the balls to do it, but those people are now getting death threats, and their families getting death threats. So it's a big deal. And Trump calls these judges out by name. He says it on Truth Social and Twitter. He's letting everybody know, here's this judge that disagreed with me. Scary. That's a scary time. If the judges say that some judges start getting offed, just, crazy MAGA person shows up, kills the judge. Like, who's going to have the guts to rule against Trump, knowing that you're putting yourself or your family in danger? That's where that's one of those down the line things, but it's worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
And also, like you said, how do they enforce it? I mean, there's this quote that apparently he never actually said it, but like Andrew Jackson supposedly said, like, okay, the Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let's see him enforce it. Republicans say that all the time. Apparently he never actually said that, but either way. But it's kind of true. Like, the Supreme Court doesn't have an army or a police force to go execute. Like, if the Supreme Court says something, then it'd be the DOJ that would enforce it, and Trump runs the DOJ. So, do they really have any teeth? It'd be up to Congress to impeach him if he didn't follow the DOJ or the Supreme Court order. And is Congress really going to impeach him right now?
Okay, so then let's go there. I guess that's and let's just say Congress does impeach him, like, and he just says, no, I'm staying and I'm president.
So I think right now there's no way right now, the current Constitution or the current makeup of the Congress and the House, there's no way he gets impeached. Maybe in 2 years. Right now, there's no way that they get to impeachment. So it doesn't even matter. Not even worth talking about. 2 years from now, if he gets impeached, we'll talk. And that's assuming the left can get their shit together and win back the House in 2 years, which I'm having severe doubts about, but we're going to talk about that in a second, okay?
Oh, it should be so easy, and they
real
just
quick,
keep dropping the ball.
Just for fun, although I want to point out, Trump does this thing where he does some things that are just, they say that they're dog whistles to the racist. And then some of them are just obvious as shit to me. And every time he says Barack Obama's name, he says Barack Hussein Obama. And it's he's clearly just trying to remind you that he's a scary Muslim, right? But he pointed out that this radical leftist judge was appointed by Barack Hussein Obama. Turned out the judge was appointed by George W. Bush. Obama just promoted him to like a higher level, but he was appointed originally by Bush. He's not a Barack Obama appointed judge.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Okay.
So,
and I remember, I heard somebody talk about that to what's her name? I keep wanting to say Eugene Carroll, but what's his press secretary's name?
Caroline Leavitt.
Caroline, not Eugene Carroll.
Yeah. Which Caroline Leavitt is 27 years old. She looks like she's mid 30s or 40s. She's 27.
Holy moly.
Right? Doesn't she seem like she's in her 30s-ish, like late 30s?
She looks old.
Yeah. Apparently it's the way I saw somebody talking about this, but it's the way she does her makeup in a way to give herself like the classic 50s housewife look, like her makeup and hair, and tries to make herself look, I don't know. Either way, I'm done. I don't know enough about that.
She's as dumb as a 27-year-old.
Yeah, she's an interesting lady. Here's my last major topic of the night, and I have a feeling I'm going to let you rant for a minute. Let me get a couple lines out, and then I'll turn you loose. Schumer is taking all kinds of crap for the shutdown, for avoiding the shutdown. He went on a little media tour over like one evening and the next morning, and basically tried to go out and like make his case that what he did was the right move. And man, like, MSNBC ain't buying it. The View ain't buying it. Like, he's getting basically challenged by everywhere he's gone. Now, I'll say this. I still say there was an argument to be made that a shutdown would have been worse than stopping it. I think that his problem was that he should have come out before he voted for it and tried to make that case to the Democrats, to the Democratic voters. And then based off how receptive they were to it, if they said, hey, we hear what you're saying, but we still want to shut down, then he should have gone with what the people wanted. But he didn't even try to make the case before the vote. And now in some of the stuff he said, it makes sense to me. Like, and he even said that one Republican senator told him, like, if you guys shut it down, we're going to keep it shut down for like 9 months. Like, we're going to let Elon and Trump do all their shit. And we're not even going to try to keep it. And if that's the case,
they wouldn't do that. The Republicans want their money as much as the Democrats. This is what I'm saying. Is like the House and the Senate, they don't get paid, right?
I'm just saying he should have made that case before the vote instead of waiting until 3 or 4 days after, then trying to explain it to America.
Yeah, or at least get something out of it. He got nothing out of it.
Nothing. Yeah, he should have gotten a clean CR is what he should have gotten. He didn't even get that.
This was the worst thing that he could have possibly done in the moment. This is him dropping the complete ball at the goal line and then picking up and running it back for a touchdown.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Schumer, you have to understand, from roughly, 2005 to 2020, Schumer was really effective at what he was doing. He really was. Like, he did a good job for about a 15-year run there of what he needed to do. The problem is he's past his prime at this point. What's interesting he supposedly, according to one book, when Biden had that terrible debate and he wouldn't drop out, Schumer went to visit him at his Delaware beach house and like had a glass of wine with him and basically said, "Joe, you got to hang it up, man. It's time." And he was one of the people that had to have that talk with Joe Biden and say, "Hey, you are too old.
Yeah.
You might not realize it, but you're too old." And it feels like somebody needs to have that talk with Chuck Schumer right now. Like that's where we're at. It's like
well, here's what I heard. I think it was Kalinsky. He said that Chuck Schumer is beholden to Wall Street. He's got so much. All of Wall Street has put money into Chuck Schumer, and that's how he gets his money. And they're looking at the stock market going, if you push up the government down, Wall Street is screwed. We're all screwed. Don't do it. And he's listening to them instead of his constituents.
And so him and Kristen Sinema are the two senators for New York, and they were two of the ones that were like, "Hey, we can't really shut this down." And people are making the argument that the two senators from New York, where Wall Street is, that they're constantly getting campaign contributions from these big Wall Street firms. So I think there's definitely some truth to that. I think Kalinsky is definitely on point there. Either way, I think we should all, it's one of those where we should all respect the fact that Schumer had a good 15-year run, but he needs to get out now. And I don't know who would replace him. Chris Murphy, who I don't know a lot about, was on the Daily Show on Monday night, and he's the best option I think I've seen out of the Senate right now. I didn't love him, but he's better than Schumer, and he kind of seems willing to fight. He's younger. Other than that, that's my biggest problem is like, okay, let's get rid of Schumer. Who replaces Schumer? I'd take Bernie, but it ain't going to be Bernie. Like, I'm just telling you right now.
What's the guy's name down in Florida? Moskowitz?
He's in the House.
Oh, he's in the House. Okay.
Yeah. The senators. So that's the thing. In 2017, Schumer had this approach of, hey, we're going to be the adults in the room. We're not going to do this childish shit. We're going to, and it worked. It really did. Public sentiment came around on them. They gained a lot of points because they were being the adults in the room. His plan worked in 2017. We're in a totally different ballgame right now in 2025. Like he's trying to do the same. And in his mind, he's like, it worked in 2017. Give it time. It's going to work here too. And it's like, no, nobody wants the adults in the room this time. Like, we want you to fight back. It's a lot more. And the way Democrats look at it is it's a lot more serious this time. Like, Trump's not effing around. We need to act now. We can't wait 5 or 6 months for American sentiment to come around and for his approval rating to drop. Like, that's not how this goes. So, and he's still trying to kind of run on the whole like orange man bad type thing. And it's like, it's not going to work. We're done with that. New tactics are needed. None, whoever's got fresh ideas, I'm down to listen to. Getting there. Okay. So whoever's got fresh ideas, I'm down to listen to. But right now, I don't see a strong candidate in the Democratic Senate that I'm like, oh, clearly just replace Schumer with this guy. Like, I don't know who that would be. So if you got anybody, let me know. So
it's frustrating.
It is. So the biggest issue, though, is, and I said this earlier, their communication sucks. Like, they don't communicate well to their voters. And in certain times, I think that they might if they had a chance to explain what they did, kind of like with the shutdown vote, I think maybe more of America would have been open to the idea that they were right to avert a shutdown. They didn't do a good job of explaining that to anybody. And they didn't even try to explain it. And I feel like as much as you want to knock Trump, like, Trump's whole, like, he's going on interviews 3 times a week. He speaks to the press all the time. He's on podcasts. Like, he is a better communicator. Like, now, is he full of shit? Is a lot of things that he says just totally made up? Yeah. But he's at least out there talking. And I'm wondering, like, who's the great communicator on the left going to be? Like, Bernie's it right now. Like, Bernie's out there talking. What he says makes sense. Even if you're on the right, you hear some things Bernie says and go, shit, like that sounds like a good idea. Bernie's too old, though. So who's waiting in the wings that is a communicator?
Well, I'm actually going to see Bernie on Friday in Denver.
Is it Bernie by himself, or is he bringing anybody along?
Him and AOC.
Okay, I feel like he needs to just start grooming her right now. She's kind of a good communicator. She's not there yet, but with some help from Bernie, she could be. And if Bernie's there with her at all these rallies, it would help a lot. But she maybe she's going to be the voice. I don't know who it's going to be, but it can't be.
I think she's in the top of the list. She's definitely in the top of the list.
It is. She is. And earlier we were talking about, who's going to take over the Senate, but really just give me anybody that can be kind of the voice of opposition to Donald Trump. Right now, it can't be Bill Burr and Jon Stewart. I love what they're doing, and they should keep it up, but we need a realistic person to vote for here.
What about Buttigieg? Buttigieg has a good voice.
They're saying Buttigieg is kind of, it looked like he was going to try for the Michigan Senate, and then he recently announced he's not going to try for the Michigan Senate seat, which a lot of people think means, he's going for the White House in 2028. I still think he'd be a great VP. I don't know that he could win the general election, but him as a VP would be interesting.
No, let's get him in. Let's get him in the Senate. I think that's a longer term. It's a longer term thing.
He's already said he's not running for it. He officially said he's not.
I don't know, man. I would like. That's where I want to see him, is in the Senate. Yeah. I mean, and then we also have Walz. I would like to see him get in the Senate as well.
Yeah. And I don't know if he terms out at a certain point from being governor.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I think every state's different. But.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's it. Schumer needs to go. Democrats need to start learning to communicate to American citizens, and they need to find a voice, a leader of the opposition to Trump. They need that, and they need to quit screwing around. That's kind of where I'm at. It's hard to be like, well, I'd rather have the Democrats than Trump. And as an independent, I'm trying to stay independent. But it was nice when I could go, oh, clearly this is a better option to Trump. Right now, I'm kind of looking at the left going, I don't know that I want to say out loud that they'd be a better option right now. They seem like they don't have their shit together. So you can't argue with me on that, can you?
For sure, but they have way better ideas.
Well, they're not expressing their ideas in a convincing way. They're not good at that. They do have good ideas. They're not getting the ideas out to everybody. When Bernie went on Rogan, the left was like, no, don't do it. They were really mad that he went on. But suddenly, a lot of people like me who always said, oh, I don't like Bernie, he's too far left for me. I left listening to that going, holy shit, some of Bernie's ideas aren't that bad. And I feel like that worked. They looked at that as they almost chastised him for going on Rogan. No, they need to start doing this.
Still do?
They did after it happened. I don't think anybody's still talking about it, but at the time, they did not think it was a wise decision. And I think it was probably one of the smartest moves he ever made. So
the Democrats need to be going on all the podcasts. They need to stop going on CNN and Fox News and go on the podcasts. It's way better, way farther reach.
I think they're afraid. I really do. I think that they're afraid that they're going to get challenged, and
they're going to get challenged.
Yeah, and they need to be ready for it. And
let's think about this. Kyle Kalinske, if he gets challenged, or David Pakman, every time you see them get challenged, or Jon Stewart, every time you see them get challenged on an issue, they have the responses, they have the comeback, and that's why we like them.
Yeah.
Right? They don't fold. They back everything up with facts and figures and good talking points. And we need to train our senators and our House and our representatives and everybody in the Democratic Party on how to be like Jon Stewart. We need to have a Jon Stewart, I don't know.
A boot camp?
A boot camp of, how to be like Jon Stewart. Yeah, Jon Stewart boot camp 2025. Let's go.
Yeah. I also think
get on the podcast.
I hate to say it, but clearly, all the elected representatives just aren't as quick-minded and quick-witted as Kalinske and Jon Stewart and whoever.
Why are they in office? Why don't we have quick?
That's why we need a Tea Party type thing to replace a lot of these lame Democrats and get some young blood in there. I don't know.
Okay.
Last thing, I listen to the Bulwark quite a lot. The Bulwark is Republicans that don't like Trump, so they're my people. I very much like their podcast. I like everybody on there.
You're not a Republican, Andy. Stop saying you're a Republican.
I still say my views. If you had me take one of those tests, that show where you are, I haven't yet, but I would say I'm probably still just slightly right of center. I would bet, honestly, on fiscal things. Anyhow. I'm not gonna argue with my beliefs.
I need you to take that test, and we're gonna post it next time. I guarantee you're not.
We'll take one live on air and see how it goes.
Okay.
So anyhow, Sarah Longwell with the Bulwark, she made a convincing speech about this, and I'm not going to do it justice, but they made a comment about the FTC firing. So Trump, I before today, I knew nothing about the FTC, Federal Trade Commission. But apparently, there's always 5 people on this commission, and whoever the president is, if it's a Republican president, then there's 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats, and then when a Democrat wins, it's 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans. So it's always you slightly have the advantage. Okay, Trump fired the 2 Democrats. So right now. And he was waiting. He needs to name the 3rd Republican because now that he won, they get a 3rd Republican. So he hasn't named that person yet. So right now the whole board that's supposed to be 5 is just 2 people. He fired the 2 Democrats. It seems like they're not going to go quietly. One of them was on CNN tonight. The other one I saw actually on Breaking Points earlier today. But they're suing. This is illegal. He doesn't have the power to fire them. Blah blah blah. I don't know if he does or not. I don't even want to act like I know. But just get in it. The thought is he's going to replace them with 5 loyalists at the FTC to do whatever he says. Why this is important, real quick, is the FTC is investigating Elon Musk for a couple different things and investigating Bezos for working conditions at Amazon warehouses and all these horror stories you supposedly hear. And so they both back Trump, and it's like, hey, Mr. Trump, it'd be real nice if you could make these investigations go away. Oh, boom, I'll just fire the guys doing the investigating. Cool.
Yeah.
Not saying that's what happened, but that's definitely one benefit.
Exactly what happened.
It's a benefit of what happened. But it seems like he really wants to fire Jerome Powell, who's the head of the Fed. He controls interest rates. Trump thinks that if he does the trade war and the economy starts to go south, that slashing interest rates would be the cure to that. And all economists say, like, no, like that would be a short-term cure, but it would long-term screw us up big time. Like, you can't do that. And that's why the Fed is holding interest rates steady right now, because they say that it would provide a short-term relief and it would be bad long-term. Trump wants them to cut the rates. He talked about firing Jerome Powell his first term a bunch, but never actually did it. The theory is that he fired these 2 as kind of a trial balloon. Trump likes to float little trial balloons. A lot of times he does it online. Like in his first term, he would say some crazy shit on Twitter and then like wait to see like what the public reaction is. And if the public reaction was bad, he'd, oh, I was just saying that. I'm not really going to do it. But if they liked it, then he would do it. This is a trial balloon right here. And she made this interesting argument that like, there are trial balloons all around us right now. Like that's all he's doing. The Palestinian student Khalil Mahmed Khalil from Columbia University, that's a trial balloon. If he ends up able to do that, then they have lists of other people that are going to be right behind him. But this is the first one. The migrant flights to El Salvador, defying a judge. He kind of gray area defied a judge. Let's see if he gets away with it. If he gets away with it, he's going to start doing it more. The 2 FTC commissioners, clearly a trial balloon. But like right now, USAID, that's another one. Dismantling that. Supposedly we're not allowed to do it. Let's do one agency and see what happens. And now they're going to wait to see what happens. And it's so important right now that like I don't know the judges. I guess we're pinning all of our hopes on judges and lawyers right now. But like. Yep. If he get whatever ones of these that he actually gets away with, now he's going to pedal to the metal. Like it's going to be full on. But it's kind of scary. The way she described it, it kind of opened my eyes. But it's like, oh, there's 15, 20 trial balloons out right now just to kind of see. And even like floating, hey, we're gonna take Greenland by force. Little trial balloon. He's going to say it, and if it hits a certain point where the majority of America is like, yeah, let's just do it, man, then he's going to do it. But that's where we're at right now. So. Be aware, there's red balloons in the air, and we gotta hope that all of them get swatted down.
Yeah, we're gonna shoot those balloons out of the air.
It's not gonna be 100%. Like he's gonna get some of them through, and I honestly think that he has a good chance of the Supreme Court saying that he can do the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 and he can deport people at his will. And I think that the problem is. For every 100 immigrants that we deport, like 1 or 2 of them are going to turn out to be really good people that end up going to a really bad fate because of it. Yeah. America won't care. I'm just saying, like that's the bad part. But it won't be enough for America to have an outrage and him stop doing it. So yeah, whoa. He's going to get that one. And also, I think he's going to get the Palestinian student. I think that kid's going to end up getting expelled. And once that kind of makes its way through the courts and we kick that kid out, he's going to do it to others. So
yeah, shit.
And also,
I mean, his track record in court is like astonishingly good.
You got the government arguing for you, and like, again, I said this a while ago, but like he's being real. I don't think it's him, but somebody's being real strategic and smart about the battles they're choosing. Because like the Palestinian student at Columbia University, like it's really easy to go, oh wait, hold on, are you gonna defend a Hamas terrorist sympathizer? And to the majority of Americans that aren't paying attention, they're like, hold on, wait, the Democrats are pro Hamas, and like it's an easy argument where he's almost daring them. So yeah, you guys come out and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you think that we should have Hamas in this country, which that's not the way it's lined up, but that's the way he's going to frame it, basically.
Yeah.
Same with the Venezuelan gang. Like, oh, you're trying to tell me that I should keep them here? It's a great winning argument for him. It doesn't matter if the facts are on his side; he has the winning argument. They're being smart about this, and I think that's part of the Democrats' hesitation to really challenge him, because like right there, like no, he shouldn't be able to do that.
They're good at messaging. This is the problem: is
They're
the
great at it.
Republicans have the messaging. The Democrats are horrible at messaging right now.
When you know how when you're playing any kind of sport against one-on-one or team-wise, like you want to try to make the other team play at your pace. You want to dictate how the game's going to go. And right now, they're picking which battles we're going to have. The Republicans are saying, okay, defend Hamas, defend Tren de Aragua, whatever it is. Like they're controlling what arguments are being had right now. And that's like the key. And like Democrats are on their back foot the whole time. They kind of can't get their footing to be able to, no, we want to talk about this and get the argument.
Chucky boy Schumer fucked it up by not fighting the one fight that we could have really had.
Yep. So that's where we're at. And that's, I don't see an easy solution to that, but right now that's, as long as that keeps happening, Trump is going to have enough of America supporting him, and he'll be able to do all the things he wants to do. So winning the messaging battle is got to be the priority for Democrats right now. And sadly, I don't think it's an easy turnaround. I don't think they can just flip a switch and start winning that. Like, I don't know what they're going to do, but
I have to start going on podcasts and speaking their message.
Yeah.
They need a Jon Stewart boot camp, and then they got to start hitting the streets, man.
That's nice. I'm going to write Jon Stewart and see if he'll do that for me. Just start coaching the Democrats. So, all right, that's all I got tonight. You got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right, man. Well, have a good night, dude. Take some pictures or videos at seeing Bernie and AOC, and we'll talk about that. We'll meet up Friday or Saturday and talk about how that went.
All right, cool.
All right, later, buddy.
Later.
Sometimes you eat the bar, sometimes the bar eats you.